circumstance in which I went to Africa was quite unique in that I hadn't... Hey guys! It's been a while since I posted my last video on Africa, and thank you so much for the engagement. One of the comments I got in the previous video was like, how was Africa? And then I thought about it, like, how was Africa? How was East Africa for me? And the circumstance in which I went to Africa was quite unique in that I hadn't actually left since
2,000 years later.
Ever since I moved to Japan 7 years ago. So I'm coming from that perspective, first of all. And then second of all, I went with a travel agency. So that meant that it wasn't like a typical trip, like with a family or like with friends. It was kind of like going with a bunch of people I have never met before. And that in itself was a new experience for me. Africa to me seemed like a foreign country, first of all. Even though I had been to other foreign countries before, it's just, to me, felt like such a far distant thing that I hadn't ever done anything like going to Africa before. I feel like Africa has this impression of it being very rural, and being a city-born, city-raised girl, it's just something that I hadn't ever done before. So just for the safety of it all, I went with a travel agency. East Africa was amazing, and as somebody, I've only ever lived in cities. I had never lived in the countryside before, so my perspective is just like, whoa, you know, like it's nothing like what I have experienced before. But the thing was, it was like I dreamed it. Like I had this vision in my mind of what Africa would be like and what Africa is, or what it looks like, at least East Africa. Like for example, like I had this image of like animals and nature and, you know, people living in huts and stuff like that, and I saw all of that in East Africa. So it was kind of like I kind of had this vision of what it was, but when I went there, I couldn't believe I was there, because I was in East Africa for 9 days, which is pretty long for like a trip, you know? I don't know what you guys consider a long trip, but for me, I felt like 9 days was pretty long. And I mean, it was great, but every morning I woke up and I couldn't believe I was there. There was a part of me that felt like I was dreaming in a way. And following on from that, like if I ever go again, I would want to see more of like real East Africa, you know? And not that it was fake or anything like that, but because I stayed in such luxurious hotels and luxurious environments, and I was with a travel agency, so every day we had to be like on the move, or we had to do something every day. It felt like there was a part of me that felt like I couldn't experience what it's really like to live there, you know? And not that I'm complaining or anything, I'm so grateful that I was able to go to East Africa, and for the first ever trip to East Africa, I felt like I took the best route, let's just say that. It was amazing, but at the same time, I knew that they were blanketing some things. Like for example, one thing that I experienced that I would never experience in Japan or England is like people coming to our tour bus and knocking on the windows trying to sell things that they've made, like they've handmade. And that's just something I had never experienced ever before in my life. And the tour guides and the tour people, the people who were like in charge of like showing us around. They didn't really tell us anything about that in advance, so we didn't really know what to do, but like we tried like not to interact with them. I'm not the type of person to be like, you know, don't bother me like usually, but it's something that I had never experienced before. I had never experienced somebody coming to my window trying to sell their necklaces and bracelets and things that they made, kind of like little statues and stuff that they made. So I didn't really know like how to deal with that, but that's something that you kind of have to ignore in a way, because there are so many people like trying to sell their things. So like they know that we have money, like especially because, you know, East Africa is nowhere near as wealthy as like Japan. They look at us and they just think money, you know, so they try to like sell their things, and it was a side of East Africa that I didn't really know before, which was great. I loved being able to like experience those things. It's something that we would never experience here in Japan. So yeah, that was something that's like kind of surprising to me. But would I recommend people go to East Africa? Absolutely. I think we should all go like once in our lifetimes if we get to. Even if it's, you know, with a tour group and you kind of see mostly only the good parts of East Africa. Also, because like we were staying in such luxurious hotels, I felt like people were really nice, but I wasn't sure if it was because we were staying at luxurious places or people were just really nice. I'd like to think that people are just genuinely nice. Like the hotels were amazing because we stayed at several hotels, and like most of them, actually all of them, were kind of in, it was like a hotel that was surrounded by like nature. And there was one hotel where there was like zebras, hippos, and they were telling us that they're wild animals. They were telling us to not go out at night, you know? So that was like something that I would never experience in the cities. I would never be able to experience that if I hadn't been to East Africa. So would I go again? Yes, I would like to go again one day. I don't know when, but somehow, some way, there's gonna be a time when I get to go traveling again. I just know it. I think I'm destined for traveling. But anyways, it was amazing. I guess the really big only downside that for me, I would say that for my personality, I wouldn't want to go in a group ever again, probably. Moving around in a group and just working in a group is just really hard for me as somebody who's like an introvert, I guess. So yeah, I feel like that's the only thing I would change. So like next time I go, I would like to go like alone and just meet people there, because then I'll get to decide when to meet people and what to do there. I guess also like the freedom, because you know everything was so scheduled because it's a travel tour group kind of thing. So now that I've experienced it, and now I know like if I do anything like this again, I would know like not to go with a group. So yeah, I guess that was a good learning experience for me. As I said before, like it being my first ever time leaving Japan since I moved here 7 years ago, it was really refreshing to just go to the airport. Even that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm at the airport. And then when I was on the plane, or when I was waiting to get onto the plane, and when I got to the airport, they were taking forever to like get my ticket or whatever. Even that, like it felt like surreal. Like I couldn't believe I was at the airport getting my ticket, or I couldn't believe I was like getting even on the plane, like, and the whole plane ride was like, I couldn't believe I'm actually leaving Japan. Traveling was something I had really wanted to do for such a long time, because obviously I hadn't left Japan in so long. So yeah, like even that aspect was really great. I guess the one thing I felt like was good because of being with a tour group was that there was always somebody there to help me, I guess. Because I was in a foreign country, first of all, and second of all, like I tend to get lost quite a lot, so yeah, like it was really nice to have people. That's the one really good thing about being with a tour group. But yeah, even then, like I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do that again. I don't want to really like bash the travel agency because they're like really famous, but also, what's the other thing? Oh yeah, the other thing I experienced, which was pretty huge, was that towards the end of the trip, like the 2 days before I was leaving, I had food poisoning. That was terrible, guys. And food poisoning most likely came from water, because the water in Japan is very, very clean compared to like the water in East Africa. So I think my body just like went into shock. Also because we didn't have any days where we didn't do anything, so my body didn't have time to like rest that much. So I guess that's another like kind of negative thing about traveling with a tour group. Aside from the food poisoning with the water, and then it being like my personal thing, like that I don't really do well with groups. Aside from those things, like it was great. and I don't want to paint like a negative picture of East Africa, because it was really amazing and it was really like beautiful, and like the animals, guys, like I went to like a natural reserve, like conservation reserve, and they had lots of animals and it was really beautiful to see the wild lions and the wild animals. There were so many beautiful animals, and I would really recommend like anyone who wants to see animals to go to East Africa. There were so many beautiful things and so many beautiful animals, and the food was amazing. I cannot wait to go back again one day. I guess that's a good thing about trips though, because I had to come back eventually and it gives me perspective, you know. I want to point out that like when I went to East Africa and stayed there for 9 days and then came back, like I felt like I was kind of brought back to reality in a way, because like I said before, I felt like I was dreaming. I couldn't believe it was my real life. So it brought me back to reality, and what amazing experience it was, because if that was my real life, to literally like be in nature with animals all day long every day, I guess that would negate from the luxury of that experience, because I'm telling you, the hotels were really luxurious. They were huge rooms and it was like only for me. I went with a package that's like for one person, but even if it was 2 people, it would still be amazing. In terms of the room sizes, they were huge, and like I had dreams about East Africa. I had dreams about going to Africa for many a year. Like I had wanted to go to East Africa or Africa in general since I was probably 12 or 13. Always wanted to go to Africa, and people around me like didn't really understand why. Like I didn't even know why either. I just felt like I just had to go to Africa. Like that was just something that I had like in my dream. Like it was like one of my life goals to go to Africa one day, and it came true this year. So I cannot believe that I really went there, and I couldn't believe that I was there when I was there. So I think it was a really good thing that I was able to like come back after 9 days, and like probably not going to be able to go for a while. So yes, so I urge you to go to Africa, or go to any place that you know you feel like you're called to, because I was called to Africa. I felt like I'm supposed to go there for a reason, and I'm still not really sure what the reason is, but I think I'll know soon. I think I'm gonna just see, because I feel like things are gonna open up for me, but I don't know how. But again, like it's the same thing. Like I knew that I wanted to go to Africa, but I didn't know where, or I didn't know why, or I didn't know how. Like I just knew that since I was like a teenager, and then I did this year. I guess the moral of the story is like, if you want to do something, you don't have to know why or how or when. It will happen. If you're destined for it, it will happen. Right now, at this moment, I want to know what I can do with this experience, but we'll have to see. And I'm very excited actually to see where this takes me, because I know I went to East Africa for a reason. I really want to do something with this experience. If you guys have any ideas or tips on what I can do with this experience, then please let me know. And I'm so sorry if this video came across like I'm complaining, because I'm really not. I just wanted to give you my honest opinion and honest feedback on this trip, and that's going to include the travel agency that I went with. So with that being said, please follow your heart and do things not because you know why or how or when. Just do it if you feel it in your heart. Like, if you feel something in your heart, then that means you are supposed to do it. It means you want to do it, so do it. I guess that's the bottom line, you know? So thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, like I said, please put them down in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. And if you guys are interested in my other channel, which in that channel I focus more on like trauma and trauma healing, so kind of deep, but if you want to, please feel free to check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.